lost her mind. She thinks she's a resurrected being and a god. Threaten me, murder me, kill me.
I too have seen the resurrected Jesus Christ, and he has told me my mission, and he has sent me to help people and lift them in their missions.
So you mentioned zombies.
Yeah.
Tell me more about the zombies.
Let's find out how many zombies are in Arizona. Okay, there's 20,000, whatever. And then he would check. Oh, somebody died.
I said, put that bat down. He's like, what are you going to do? So you're going to threaten me? I said, no, I'm just going to defend myself.
Where are your kids? No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
That's great.
The events began on January 31st, 2019. Charles Vallow, who was still alive at the time, had just come back from a business trip. Upon arriving home, he discovered he was locked out of his house with no trace of his wife Lori or his children JJ and Tylee. His car was also missing, and a substantial amount of money had been withdrawn from his bank account. Seeking answers, he decided to call 911.
So what's going on tonight?
I can't get in touch with my kids.
How old are your kids?
6.5 and 16. She's lost her mind. I don't know how to say it. She thinks she's a resurrected being and a god, and remember the 144,000. Jesus is coming next year.
So what makes her a danger to herself and to others?
She threatened me, murder me, kill me.
She threatened to murder you?
Yes. She said, you're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles, but I can murder you now with my powers.
Is this just all recent, or has it been going on?
Been going on for about 4 or 5 years. It's gotten really, really bad lately. She goes to the temple every day and speaks with Moroni and Jesus Christ. And they tell her what to do. And now she came to her today, and last couple of days she says, I'm not Charles. You're not Charles. You're Nick Schneider.
Nick Schneider was an evil spirit who had taken possession of Charles' body, and Charles genuinely believed these threats against his life were real. In recent years, Lori had become obsessed with the teachings of Chad, a man renowned for his dogmatic writings on the end times, the second coming of Christ, and other unique concepts such as evil spirits and zombies. Both Chad and Lori were members of a cult called Preparing a People, which focused on preparing for the second coming of Jesus Christ and the end of the world. Lori also believed she was one of the 144,000 high priests destined to spread the everlasting gospel in the world's final days. She thought every human spirit ranged on a spectrum from light to dark, with darker spirits being more dangerous to her in her beliefs. Lori's deep involvement in these new religious ideas had raised significant concerns for Charles, not only for his own safety, but also for the well-being of their 2 children.
She said to me, all that stuff is gone. You're not Charles, your stuff is gone. I don't know what that means.
And how long have you been trying to get in touch with the kids?
Since yesterday. Today she said with Gabe on the phone, come take the kids. I don't care what happens to them. Come take them. She said, I can murder you.
I can murder you.
I will kill you because you're not Charles, and nobody will care.
A pickup order can be issued when one parent fails to hand over a child to the other parent. Since Charles had not heard from his kids in days, he felt compelled to take action. The police assisted Charles in re-entering his house, but by then, Lori and the children were already gone. The following morning, Charles called 911 again, directing them to a hotel in Gilbert, Arizona, where he believed Lori was hiding with JJ and Ty. This time, Charles had secured an emergency mental health petition, which required Lori to check into a mental health institution for assessment.
What's going on? Why is she here and you're not here, or are you staying here with her?
Long story. She's had kind of a break from me now. I've tried to support her as much as I could, but it's gotten really, really bad lately. She's had a break. She says, I'm Nick Schneider. I've taken over Charles's body, and Charles has been killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow.
Earlier that morning, Charles had attempted to locate Lori by going to JJ's school. He spotted her car in the parking lot, but there was no sign of her. Noticing that she had left her purse in the car, Charles took it, hoping this would prevent her from fleeing. His plan worked, as Lori went to the Gilbert police station later that same morning to report her missing purse. However, her account of the events differed significantly from his.
So this morning when I took my son to school, he was waiting somewhere and stole my purse out of the car, my whole purse. So my phone, my wallet, my money, my everything was in there.
What is it that motivates him doing this kind of stuff? Does he say why?
I caught him cheating and I had evidence and I told him about it, and he travels a lot for business, so I told him about it and told him not to come home and that his stuff would be gone and that his car would be gone and all this thing. So he's a little mad.
She claimed that she had discovered Charles having an affair, told him not to come home, locked him out of the house, and taken his car. These were just the first of many carefully fabricated lies that would not only ruin Charles's life, but ultimately end it. The police informed Charles that he could not take Lori's property, regardless of his motive. A deal was then made. If Charles returned Lori's purse, the police would promptly follow up with a mental health petition. Charles complied, and Lori underwent her assessment. However, she was released within 2 hours, with doctors finding no issues. This decision sealed Charles' fate and jeopardized the lives of his children. Charles filed for divorce, and 6 months later, his body was found at Lori's house with 2 gunshot wounds. The fate of his children was now in the hands of their delusional and dangerous mother.
He's right here in the living room. Firearm is going to be in the front door, in the front bedroom, laying on the ground next to a case. Yeah, you want to stay in here? I'll see if I get this guy's info.
When Charles' body was found, an investigation determined that the shooter was Alex Cox, who happened to be Lori Vallow's brother.
What's going on? What happened?
He came at me with a bat.
Okay. Was he living here or
No.
visiting?
He came to pick up his son.
Okay, is the son inside?
No. My sister took him to school.
Okay, so it was just you at the house?
Yes.
And he came, how long, what time did he come to pick up the son?
I don't know, 20 minutes ago maybe.
Okay, so you know who he is, let him in?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think they were talking earlier, then she left, and then he got into it with me.
Like what? What do you mean?
I don't know.
Alex seemed very vague in his answers, claiming he couldn't remember exactly what happened, other than that the two simply gotten into a fight. However, such vague responses weren't going to satisfy the police, especially when a dead man was involved.
So you get in an argument? What is it over?
Well, it was over my sister. He was getting physical with her, and so my niece came out with her bat, and then he took the bat away from her.
Wait a minute, I thought you said your niece left.
She did, but this is before.
So before your sister and your niece left,
yeah.
At some point your sister and her husband are arguing,
yes.
Verbal argument, and then your niece pulls out a bat?
Well, it wasn't verbal. He was getting close, and she came out to defend my sister with her bat.
Your niece?
Yes.
Okay.
And then she poked at him, and he took it away.
Okay.
And then he's coming back at me, and he's still got the bat in his hand. I'm like, what are you doing?
And where are you at? Where are you both
in the
at?
living room.
Okay.
And then I turned around, and he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and got my gun. I always carry it.
You went to your room, meaning the room you're staying in?
Yeah.
Okay, and you brought a gun with you?
Yes.
Do you always
Yes.
bring a gun? So why didn't you stay just in your bedroom, close the door? Is that something you didn't think about, or?
Didn't even occur to me.
Okay.
The final statement should have completely undermined Alex's argument, as it technically proved that this wasn't self-defense. When Alex went to his room to grab his gun, he should have been able to usher his family inside, close the door, and stand his ground from there. Instead, he grabbed his gun and, without a second thought, ran straight up to Charles and shot him. Despite this, there were still many unanswered questions. The police decided to bring everyone back in for interrogation to try to get to the bottom of what exactly happened to Charles.
Start where you think it makes the most sense.
Okay. So we moved into this house 3 weeks ago because he offered to get me a house here where all my family is. So we were in Houston. And we had decided to separate or whatever. So he's like, well, I'll pay for a house for you and for JJ and whatever, because he's all about JJ. He's never about Tylee, but he's all about JJ. Because we adopted him together. He's his great nephew. We adopted him as a baby. He came when we first moved in and brought me stuff from Houston, like a U-Haul, and then he hasn't been back. But it's all these threats on my phone all the time, you know, like whatever, all these things. And then he told me...
What kind of threats?
Just... He's always mad at me, right? Okay. And he doesn't want a divorce, but I don't like him and don't want to deal with him, so that's just how it is. Like, so we married for 14 years, we dealt with it for 14 years, of him being horrible to her. Like, he gets in huge fights with her, a lot of things, but anyway.
Immediately, Lori described Charles as a man with violent tendencies and a history of aggression towards his wives. By convincing the detectives that Charles had a temper, she hoped to make their version of events appear even more plausible.
So he went back to the Houston house, and he's like, I'm coming on Wednesday night. and I'm gonna come pick up JJ and take him to school Thursday, pick him up Thursday, take him Friday, whatever. And I said, Casey wanted to come to the house. And I said, you can't come stay at this house because you can't get along with Tylee. She's a minor, she has to live here.
Yeah.
So, because he gets in huge fights up there.
Okay.
And she hates it. And so I'm like, you can't stay at the house, so I will book you a hotel, because he stays in hotels all the time because he travels for business, and the business pays for it.
What does he do?
He works with teachers and their retirement plans, but he goes to them, but there's he mostly works in California.
Okay.
No matter where we live. And we lived in Hawaii, he'd work in California, he'd work in Texas, he has like books of business in different areas. And so he just goes wherever.
Okay.
It kind of just gives him freedom that he doesn't have to stay home every day and take care of special needs child. It's like, excuse me. He came over in the morning and he's like banging on the door. I'm like, oh great, here we go, you know. And then JJ was like, oh, Dad. And then he was like, Mommy, and like ran to me and was like holding me. He's like, you're not taking me to school. And I was like, it's okay, Dad, I can just drive you to school. It's not a big deal. You know, just trying to make it whatever.
Calm.
Yeah, calm. He was just being real smirky and real like jerky, you know, to me. And I was like ignoring him, whatever. And so he was like,
your brother lives there with you?
No.
Okay.
He had stayed with me last night because I was worried he was going to come over and cause trouble with me.
Okay.
And just wanted someone else there, like my brother there, because I trust my brother. And
They would claim self-defense is the reason Charles was killed, and as the cops continued to question Lori, they began to find this explanation increasingly credible.
He goes nuts. He's gone nuts on us a lot of times. Tylee and I have had to leave with JJ over the years probably 5 times and just stay in a hotel for 2 days because you don't know what's going to set him off. Like, she's mad at me for always like going back, but we had JJ and he's special needs and it's really hard. Like, it's even hard to take care of by yourself.
So you thought, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you thought it was possible that he was going to hurt you?
Absolutely, he was going to hurt me and Tylee.
Okay.
Not JJ, he never hurt JJ.
Okay.
And he hurt my brother. Like, he was going like ballistic about it. Was bad.
Okay.
An angry husband losing his temper during a divorce is not uncommon, and feuding couples often come to blows, making Lori's story more and more convincing. However, according to Charles' ex-wife Cheryl, this was not the man she knew. She stated that during their marriage and divorce, not once did he ever physically threaten her, directly contradicting Lori's claims.
So when you say he goes nuts, that can mean a lot of different things.
Right.
So goes nuts like yelling and screaming.
Yeah,
goes
yelling
nuts
and screaming,
like breaking
like,
things.
yes.
Goes nuts like physical violence.
He's never really, besides like grabbing us and pushing us, but not like punching us or something. But with Tylee, he has gotten physical.
Okay.
Went like he was going to hit her, but then I got in between them.
So this morning he comes back in and...
He comes back in, I went give him his phone. He was screaming at me to give him his phone. He was very worried about whatever was on his text that he did not want me to see. And so I was just holding it there and he was screaming at me. And so Tylee came out of her room upset and she had a bat and she told him to leave her mother alone, like, right? So she was really... whatever, and he's screaming at her, don't you hit me with that bat, blah, 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 blah. And then my brother heard all the commotion because he was in there in bed, and so he came out into the main room and he's yelling at Tylee, don't you hit me with that bat, and blah, blah, blah. And so Tylee, I guess, I don't know if she swung at him or what, but he like grabbed the bat from Tylee and then went to like hit Tylee with the bat. It was, and I was right there, they were right there, and my brother grabbed him from behind, like just to stop him from hitting Tylee. They got into the thing and he's hitting him with the bat and they're on the ground like grappling around or whatever. And then
he hit your brother with the bat while they were grappling and stuff?
Yes.
However, there are lingering questions from the investigation. For instance, the autopsy revealed that one of the gunshots struck Charles while he was on the ground. In a self-defense situation, one might expect the shooter to freeze up and do anything to avoid further harm once the threat is neutralized. Therefore, it seems strange that Alex decided to shoot Charles a second time when he was already down. Additionally, it took nearly 45 minutes for anyone to call 911. While Lori claimed this delay was due to shock, it conveniently provided just enough time to concoct an alternative version of events and a solid story to present to the police.
Okay, so you hear the argument, you step out, what's the first thing that you see?
Charles chasing after Lori and yelling.
Okay. Had Tylee already gotten the bat? Did he already have the bat? Okay.
No.
So Charles is coming towards Lori.
He's
They're coming
towards
your way.
Lori, and I shoved him back.
Okay.
And I said, what are you doing? Because he's coming at her aggressively.
Okay.
He's a big dude, so I wasn't gonna...
So he's coming at her.
Yeah.
And you shoved him back?
Yeah.
What happened right after that?
I said, put that bat down. He's like, what are you going to do? So you're going to threaten me? I said, no, I'm just going to defend myself. So you put that bat down. He goes, what are you going to do like that? And he came at me.
Okay.
And he'd already hit me in the head.
How many times would you say you told him to put the bat down?
Once.
Once? Okay. And then he started advancing towards you?
Yes.
How many shots did you fire?
I don't know. Couple.
One of Lori's friends later reported that Lori had mentioned Alex believed her theories about Charles being possessed by evil. According to this friend, the reason Alex was at the house at the time of Charles's death was simple. He believed Charles was going to try and kill Lori and had moved in with her to help keep her safe.
I didn't see the shot, I heard it, and then I came back around and I saw that he was on the ground.
Okay.
And was freaking out.
Yeah.
And so I was just freaking out, and it just went into mom mode. I'm like, I've got to go to get JJ to school. I've got to get to the kids. I just felt like I got to get to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just went outside and to see if they were in there okay. I didn't want them coming back in the house when all that was going on. And got JJ in the car, and he was trying to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And Tylee was like looking at me with like the crazy eyes, like what just happened. And I told her to get in the car and we're going to take JJ to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I just left.
When you came back in and you saw him on the ground, where was your brother? Did you see him where he was at?
Yeah, he was right in front of him.
Did your brother say anything to you at all? Do you remember?
No, we were both just in shock.
Okay.
Like, it was just I didn't say anything. I went out with the kids just to check on them first, and I was going to come back in maybe, but I didn't. I was like, I just have to get him to school.
Okay.
And call the police and come back, you know.
Did you or your brother say anything at some point about calling the police or calling 911? Do you remember?
Yeah, he called me.
Okay.
And he said, are you taking JJ to school?
Uh-huh.
And I said, yeah, we need to call the police. And he said, okay.
Okay. So he called you when you didn't come back inside, basically?
Right.
Okay.
Because I was like in the car for a minute, and then I was like, what do I do?
On the surface, it appears that an enraged Charles stormed into the house and started shouting at Lori. Alex decided to intervene, fearing for his sister's life. What began as a disagreement quickly escalated into a fight, ultimately ending with Charles lying lifeless on the ground. Ty seemed to support Lori and Alex's account when she shared her version of events.
I opened the door and it was my stepdad, and he was just screaming at both of them, and so I just kind of stuck the baseball bat out there, and then he just grabbed it. And so I fell to the ground, and then my uncle I saw him take a step back, so my uncle, I think, grabbed him and kind of took him back so he couldn't do anything. And so my mom said to go with JJ, and so I ran out the door, and then I kind of just stood there with my little brother, and then eventually my mom came out, and then I heard a noise, which I know what it was now, but it sounded like, because I knew that the baseball bat was in there, it sounded like someone took it and hit it really hard against the floor.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that my stepdad didn't do anything to my uncle and stuff. And so she was like, no, I was fine, we're just gonna take JJ to school, and I was like, okay.
Despite Charles's lack of a violent history and Alex's near slip-ups at the scene, Lori's story, supported by Ty and Lee's perspective, was enough for detectives to officially rule the case as self-defense. However, the death of Charles Vallon was just a tip of the iceberg. Investigators soon discovered that Lori had become entangled in a seedy cult, transforming her from a seemingly perfect mother into a stone-cold killer.
Lori, Nate Eaton with East Idaho News. Can you tell me where your kids are? Where are your kids? No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say? Listen, just tell people what's happening. There's people around the country praying for your children, praying for you guys. Why don't you give us answers?
That's great.
Just days after Charles's death, Lori decided it was time for a change and moved the entire family across the country to Rexburg, Idaho. This choice seemed strange at first until it was revealed that Rexburg was the hometown of Chad Daybell. Lori was now living minutes away from the man who had not only convinced her that her husband was evil, but was also starting to spin the same sinister stories about her young ones. It was during this time that detectives met Melanie, Lori's best friend and another member of her cult. Melanie was ready to reveal the details of their ideology and beliefs, which could soon lead to the death of Lori's young ones.
Chad had this, he said that it's some childhood friend that Charles had, and that he died. And then he came back as he didn't ever leave. He was an unclean spirit that got trapped on the earth, and he was now attached to him for years, and he'd been studying him, right, as his behaviors and stuff like that. And so then he pushed his spirit out of the body and took over. That's what he said.
Push Chad, Charles' spirit.
Yeah, so his spirit's now moved on. So she believed that Charles was gone. He was already gone. So she was treating him like he was Ned Snyder.
The situation is both confusing and eye-opening, offering a clear insight into Lori's beliefs about her family. She believed that Charles was possessed by a dark spirit and was essentially already gone. The troubling part is that she had the same belief about her children, thinking that Charles had corrupted them and turned them into zombies.
So you mentioned zombies.
Yeah.
Was that ever a term that you were exposed to by them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell me more about the zombies.
She said she had a dream once that an earthquake happened in Utah. And so people that fell on the earth, if they were able to get rid of all the zombies in the world, then those zombies wouldn't get into those dead bodies and come back. I remember one time she took a map and she's like, okay, here's the United States. We're going to do a prayer. Let's find out how many zombies are in Arizona. Okay, there's 20,000, whatever, 10. I don't even remember the numbers. It was so out there. And then she'd say a little prayer, whatever words she'd come up with that she thought were powerful. And then he would check, oh, somebody died. So then that was her way. In my opinion, what I saw at least was just through a prayer that these people would pass away.
Lori believed for the earth to be truly pure, all the zombies needed to be killed. Chad began feeding Lori increasingly fantastical lies about the nature of the world, including concepts like ascension, translation, and the ability to meet with God himself.
And then they had a scale of 0 to 100% how much you could trust people.
Okay.
I was supposed to be like 97%. They were always building me up. Anyway, she would sometimes share like, oh, this person or that person, it's not trustworthy, it's this person. And that was their little game.
However, maybe you know or don't know, vibrations.
So vibrations, yes, I'm aware of that too. So according to how he would check, he used that little pendulum thing a lot. I didn't know that in the beginning, but anyway. Okay. And 1,000 was supposed to mean, if you got to 1,000, that means you're translated, or you're beginning your translation. And then as you get higher in your vibration, you could portal at some point, maybe, I'm trying to remember what she would say, 2,500 maybe, or something like that. And so the more you went to the temple, your vibration would increase too. So it's just like your light would increase, your vibration, that kind of idea.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Lori had become convinced she could speak to Jesus and was completely consumed by Chad's teachings. Not long after, their relationship intensified, and they even started a religious podcast together, which revealed just how extreme her beliefs had become.
I too have seen the resurrected Jesus Christ, and he has told me my mission, and he has sent me to help people and lift them in their missions.
Over time, Lori became more vocal about her beliefs in zombies, telling friends that many people were possessed by evil spirits and demons. She claimed her son JJ's behavior had changed, saying he loved Satan and had become more disruptive at home. Had the police listened to Charles Vallow when he expressed fears of JJ and Tylee's lives, they might have prevented the tragic events that followed. Only days after moving to Rexburg, Lori, Alex, JJ, and Tylee visited Yellowstone Park. This was the last time anyone saw Tylee alive. Things became even stranger on September 17, 2019, when JJ was seen running into his Idaho home on a neighbor's doorbell camera, never to be seen again. Months later, people noticed JJ's absence, and Charles's parents called 911 to report his disappearance. On November 26th, after a welfare check on JJ, Lori was caught lying to officers. She claimed JJ was with her friend Melanie in Arizona, but Melanie denied having him and revealed that Lori had asked her to lie. In December, Alex died suddenly. His death ruled as natural causes, but the number of deaths and strange occurrences involving Lori had become suspicious. By this time, police were extremely concerned for the welfare of JJ and Tylee. In January 2020, Lori was served an order to prove that the children were safe and well. The deadline passed, and Lori was arrested 3 weeks later and held on a $5 million bail. Despite the arrest, both Lori and Chad remained silent about the children's whereabouts. Finally, 5 months later, detectives initiated a search of Chad Daybell's property. They found the bodies of JJ and Tylee. JJ's body was wrapped in duct tape and placed in a plastic bag, while Tylee had been dismembered, burned in a fire pit, and then buried. Chad was immediately arrested, and Lori's trial began shortly after. It took another 3 years, but Lori was eventually found guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and grand theft over the deaths of her children. Lori showed no remorse, making a bizarre statement to the court after her sentencing. Thankfully, this evil mother, if you can even call her that anymore, won't be getting out anytime soon, and she was sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences. Chad Daybell has yet to go to trial, but he could be facing a similar conviction and a lifetime behind bars.